If your grand plan is something that hasn't worked since week 2, we might need to go back to the drawing board. All right, let's go to Mark in Largo. Mark, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show. Something you feel good about and or something that scares you about Saturday night?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Craig. I think what I feel good about is I feel good about this game, and what scares me is the disrespect to Detroit that I'm getting from the Detroit media towards the Commanders. And I will say this, and you know, I said this on Russell's show yesterday. This is a huge game for ownership and management to stick it to Ben Johnson. You know, he's been mysteriously quiet this week so far. Very quiet. And
hold on, Mark. Before we go too far down a rabbit hole here, what Detroit media have you seen that's been disrespectful towards the Commanders?
Well, I mean, go to YouTube, bruh. Craig, if you go to YouTube, everything from Detroit. I do a preview of every opponent that the Commanders play and what they talk about. Tampa Bay was nervous. Okay. Philadelphia was nervous.
Okay, are these
Detroit
fans on YouTube, or are these like actual media people who have something more
YouTube,
all due
YouTube,
respect, more than a YouTube channel? You know I love YouTube. I'm on there too. But like it's one thing to say
you got
like
a point. That could be true.
Like, are these people that are going to the facility and covering the team, or are these glorified fans? And the other thing about Ben Johnson that I'll say, hold on. Here's the thing about Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson gets to give one press conference a week, just like Cliff Kingsbury does. Like, there is no being quiet if you're a coordinator. Like, he does his job. He shows up. He's going to answer questions at the one press conference he gets, and then he's going to continue doing his thing. Like, the coordinators don't talk.
Craig, are you going to let me talk?
Yeah, now I am, but I'm just laying the table stakes here on a more accurate representation.
I understand. I get it, Craig. I get it. But what I'm trying to say to you is this. Okay, and this is what I told your screen caller. Jared Goff is not the most mobile quarterback out there. Todd Bowles gave everybody a blueprint on how to play Detroit Lions the second week of the season. And I think we all know Todd Bowles blitzes like crazy. If I was going against them, and this is going to sound crazy, but I would do it. And you get a lead, which I think Washington will get a lead. That I know for sure. Because Detroit has the worst defense in the playoffs, period. They have the worst defense in the playoffs. So they will get a lead. I would start blitzing Jared Goff until the cows come home. And the reason why I say that is because, yes, I know I get it. They got great players on the outside, and they got a great running back. But you know what? They got a quarterback that can't move. And this day and age, if you don't have a quarterback that can move and you're playing against a physical defense and they start hitting you, eventually he'll start throwing interceptions. And that's all I'm trying to say. Craig, I love your show, bro. I love you because it seems like every time we talk, we're always arguing. And I actually like you.
Well, let me.
I do.
I appreciate that. And like I'm always open to like fun back and forths. Here would be my thing for what you said, Mark. If your grand plan is something that hasn't worked since week 2, we might need to go back to the drawing board because I have no doubt, like, yes, getting after Jared Goff is, I think, a smart play. And I think that unlike last week where Baker, that might be true too, but there's a reason it hasn't worked since week 2. And like that, I think, is also relevant. And I do think that there are Commanders fans that hate Ben Johnson because of how last offseason went down and thus are underrating just how good he is. And I think that Ben Johnson knows that Jared Goff is not very mobile, and they won 15 games anyway and had a 33-point-per-game offense, the best in the NFL. So they have plans for that stuff. Now, if you can find a way to disrupt those plans, great, and that is ultimately Joe Witt's job. I'm just not blind to the gargantuan level of the task.
You might be right. You might be right on that. I still think they could win. But I'm gonna tell you something. I don't know how. I don't know. Craig, you're in your 30s, right? You're in your 30s.
I am.
Okay. So you don't remember the Commanders winning this? I mean, when they went to the playoffs in '86 and '87. You don't remember that?
I was not alive. That's how that math is going to math out.
I got you on that. So, the reason why I say that is because it just reminds me a little bit of, everybody crapping on the Commanders and saying we don't have a chance. Look, this team won 13 games. Yes, yeah. I know they won 15 games. I get it. But 15-13 is not really that far. And I would say that is I think people need to stop sleeping on that.
I guess, Mark, here's the only thing. I got to run because we got full phone lines and we're also up against the break here. Mark, I appreciate your calls always. I think they're always fun. It's fun to banter back and forth. I appreciate Mark and anybody else who has a chip on their shoulder. I'm just going to tell you, I don't think anybody worth listening to is doubting this team. The one entity that I will give credence to that I have heard doubt this team is Vegas. There's no way they should be a 10-point dog. What scares me, Vegas has them as a 10-point dog. Now, they are fully capable of overcoming that. They have at other points this year. And double-digit favorites went down this year at a rate that was kind of unprecedented. We saw a ton of double-digit favorites lose. And I don't think that this is one of those situations. I think these teams are closer to evenly matched. But 13-1, it was 12 in the regular season. And the Lions didn't play last week. 3 games worth of NFL football is like winning 10 or 12 extra NBA games over the course of 17 versus 82. So, it is a pretty significant difference. And again, I think a lot of people look at Washington and go, that team scares the bejesus out of me. I don't want to play them. And the reason is simple. They have the best quarterback in the conference. But the worst defense in Detroit, I don't know that I buy that. I don't know that they're the worst defense on the field Sunday. They've had a bunch of injuries, but they've still performed at a high level. I know our last taste in our mouth of the Minnesota Vikings is they stink because they got worked by the Rams. But the Minnesota was phenomenal this year, and they wrecked them in Week 18. Sure, there's a couple teams that got Buffalo, but there are a couple teams that got Detroit, but there weren't a lot of them. And the ones that did were really good. And it didn't matter in a lot of those games because Detroit's offense was that spectacular. So again, maybe I'm the hater here, and I think Washington can absolutely win this game. And I think this is going to be really fun on Saturday night. I'm just not blind to how good Detroit is. And I will not hand them their respect, especially as someone who kind of believed in what Dan Campbell and them were doing from go and sees a lot of the same things in what Washington is doing. So if you want to believe in Detroit, in some ways it's a belief in what Washington is building here because a lot of the same principles apply, even if some of the roster building and some of the details are a little bit different.
What's up, kiddos? It's your boy Clinton Yates from ESPN. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Tell your mama I said what's up.